welcoming you Gooshbagz to the week, what is it, 16 edition of the Gooshbagz Fantasy Football League podcast. I, as always, am your host, the commissioner of the Gooshbagz Fantasy Football League, Jason Peck. Man, Adam, I have to introduce you. I'm sorry. On the podcast this week, we have one of the most fearsome rivals in the league and arguably had one of the best fantasy teams of the year. Unfortunately for him, I had the Miami defense going into this week. So, Adam Stovall, I have you here with me. Thank you for joining me despite your, I'm sure, not fantastic mood after what happened in our matchup this week.
Me. I did. But I felt like I needed to tell my side of the story.
Yeah.
That inside.
Have I ever felt that inside?
Have you ever been dead inside? Because that's what I'm feeling this last 24 hours here, pretty much. It's been terrible. Have you ever worked 9 months long, starting from wintertime into the summertime, working hard to research your players, come up with strategies, draft the exact team you want for a championship, make the moves during the season for the trades you want, come to the semis as the best team in the league at, was it 10-4, 11-4?
Something like that.
With the most points scored in the league, to be chopped down from reaching the ultimate finals because COVID struck your best player. And then COVID struck the second and third string quarterbacks of the team you're going against whose defense is playing. Perfect storm.
To be fair, you could have had Justin Jackson on your bench.
Yeah, I could have. My guy catching COVID. I think it's baloney. So I just want to see a nice, strong matchup. I don't want to lose that way or win that way. Mm-hmm. I want best team versus my best team. And we've, especially me, have been robbed of that. And that's a crappy feeling.
Well, I tell you what, I'm sure it is a crappy feeling. I did feel, as I was telling you before this, I did feel similarly on Sunday night because my team started off doing pretty well. I had A.J. Brown on Thursday night, and then George Kittle did poorly for me on Thursday night. And then, like right away at the 12 o'clock games on Sunday, James Robinson gets an Achilles injury. He gets me 1 fantasy point, which, by the way, not James Robinson's fault. It just really sucks. And the rest of my team just kind of followed suit, except for, like you said, Justin Jackson, who was filling in for your sick Austin Eckler. And did you have a claim in for Justin Jackson?
No, I didn't.
Surprising. I think I would have gotten it anyways because we both have no money and I'm technically a lower seed. So I think I would have had it anyways, but yeah. So yeah, it does suck to win and or lose in a week like this, but like everybody's dealing with it. Like you got unlucky and got hit with, Austin Eckler getting hit with it, but that's just kind of how it is, how it's been the last couple of weeks, like 2 or 3 weeks. So like that happened to, well, not COVID, but like injuries and whatnot happened to Ryo last week. Two of the players that Tom Brady was throwing to got hurt, and they happened to both be on Ryo's team, but
injuries, because that's kind of expected with football as part of the game. But for a non-injury related sit down, it's frustrating.
It is. But I'll tell you what, I make the little plaques that go on the trophy, and there's not going to be an asterisk next to this year. So just so you know. But I'm sorry that your boy got hurt or got sick and did not get hurt and had to sit out this week. I got 27 fantasy points out of it and another 25 from Miami because, like you said, all of the quarterbacks were sick for who was it? Who did they play last night? Whoever. Oh, the Saints. That's right. So. All right. Well, moving on from. I'm glad you got your side of the story out. Did you want to have anything else to add to that, or?
I this kid one time say that and he's winning, winning. And he's not been affected by COVID, but even he was like, this COVID shit is making this stuff not fun anymore. Like, I feel ya. I hate COVID now. I hate it.
You didn't hate COVID up until this week?
No. But I hate it now, more so than ever.
It's funny how
I even said to myself at the beginning of that game last night, I'm like, fourth string quarterback, I'm like, watch this kid start off the game with a pick six. Took him 2 throws.
Second pass.
There's the ball game.
Yep.
And I turned the game off. I put on the Big Bang Theory, and I made my fruit bowl for my work party today. Did my laundry. I'm not watching it. And so all those other times too, you were like, "Oh, this casual Adam doesn't care" type of thing is baloney. No, I've always cared. I've always been passionate about it. But usually I'm like getting out of tennis, and I'm like on the ride over, like, "What's up?" Or like in the bathroom, like just missed the big play. "Hey, what's up?" Or the one time I was playing courts and I didn't want to watch it, so I just went straight to bed. And I got all my news feed because of the Messenger app from you guys.
To be fair, I don't I don't think that the Miami's defense would have done as well if you were continued watching. Have you ever thought about that?
No, I didn't want to watch anymore.
Because after you stopped watching, they had 8 sacks and another interception. So that's 10 fantasy points. You might have been able to win.
See, I think it's a little bit different. You said your team's going to lose, Adam, and I said, I know. And you said, this is no fun shit talking people who don't shit talk back. Then I said, boo, hiss, your team sucks. One time this season.
Oh no. We've reinforced Adam's passive aggressiveness of congratulating the other team well in advance. Every single year, every single week next year, we're going to be getting a message from Adam on freaking Monday at 10:30 p.m. saying congratulations to his opponent for next week.
It was the only time this season I did that, and I ended up losing.
It's not the only time you lost, though.
Yeah, but it's the only time I've done that and lost.
That is true. You're right. I goaded you into antagonizing my team, and it worked. That was the plan all along.
So disturbing. It was a perfect storm. AJ Brown went off too with 11 catches on 16 targets.
Yeah, now I need to figure out my running back 2 spot. Now, like I said, I think I've got priority over Courts for this week on the waiver wires, and I got priority over you too, so you can't even pick anybody up above me. I'm still the lower seed, so I still think I get priority, I believe. But yeah, I want to I need to grab somebody. I need to figure out my running back spot because James Robinson's gone. Justin Jackson is not going to start because Austin Eckler's back now, and Jeff Wilson, Elijah Mitchell might be back, so Jeff Wilson might not play, or might not start. So those are all the running backs on my team besides Jonathan Taylor. So I need to get that sorted out.
JT for 50.
I hope so. I'll need it. Oh, we're doing all right over here. Hey, by the way, I already showed Adam, but this is my cool floating helmet here. Fancy, huh? Now it's wobbly, but it is fancy and cool. But yeah, let's since we're talking about injuries and sicknesses and whatnot, let's initialize the sadness. This one directly affected my team and my boy James Robinson with a torn Achilles. He might not even be back for next year. Like, that's how bad this is. And it sucks for James because he's an undrafted rookie and he had a shot and he was killing it. And this is a tough one for running backs to come back from. So we'll have to see. Hopefully, James, you'll be coming back and doing what Deonta Foreman did this year. Kind of came back and has started doing better since his Achilles. So really hoping that that James comes back. That's a really tough one for somebody who doesn't have a guaranteed contract and has to work hard to just get back into the league. There all of the injuries were running backs this week, the main ones. We have Miles Sanders, who broke his hand somehow on Sunday. I'm not 100% sure how that happened. We also have Darrell Henderson, who's out with an MCL sprain, at least for next week, and that's all that really matters for fantasy. And then the last one was CEH, your boy, who you also started. He had a hurt shoulder partway through the third quarter. And helped me out by not playing the rest of the game, along with all the Dallas Cowboys. So that was fun. You're right, Adam. It was a perfect storm that allowed me victory this week.
I think EA.
You think what? CEH would have scored 10 more points? You think so? He might have been able to. 10 would have done it, actually. Just barely. It would have beat me by 0.2 points. But you think you would have gotten 11?
Yep.
Hey, maybe. They were playing. Who were they playing? They were playing somebody terrible.
Raiders, I think.
Yeah. No, that was Denver. Denver played the Raiders. I remember because it was a surprise that the running backs did bad. Because usually running backs are good against the Raiders, but the Denver running backs really played poorly this week.
Well, I don't know. I'm on my phone again because my laptop won't work. So.
Oh, you've had a rough 24 hours, Adam.
It's 61% battery now.
Oh no. All right. Well, we'll keep powering through it here. We'll go quickly so that your phone doesn't die in the middle of this, because that would be even worse.
I just charged it before we started, so I was up to 75%. So I think I'm good for a while. We've been doing this for 25 minutes now.
That's true. That's true. Well, we'll keep moving forward here. We've got the top scorer in the league this week, which was surprisingly Team IR. I'm calling them Team IR, even though he's changed his name to 3 in a row, which he never got to. But he did win a total of 3 games. And this one was in the toilet bowl. He scored 138.04 fantasy points in the highest scoring matchup of the week, which is very surprising because this is the 2 worst teams in the league facing off against each other. And they both had, they didn't have the top 2. They had 2 of the top 3 scorers of this week. So we'll talk about that in a little bit, but we did get here already through the Venmo, so you're all set with your $10. But all right, we've heard most of this. We'll go to the matchup reactions for this week. First was the semifinal matchup number 1, the more the merrier versus Hot Digsity Dog, and like we were talking about, I did take home the victory and advance to the championship with 127.48 fantasy points to Hot Digsity Dog's 117.6. And like we were talking about, go ahead, Adam. You had something to say?
This is my year, man. I guess I visualized my name on that plaque on that trophy.
Yeah, I mean, if you had beaten me, I would definitely be rooting for you this week to take down Courts. That's for sure. We need somebody else on top of that throne besides Courts. So I would have been rooting for you for your first dub in the league.
Courts, who's done it many times, and then you got you, who won it last year.
I won it 2 years ago. Aaron won it last year.
Oh, that's right.
If I had won it last year, you'd be seeing the trophy right here behind me every single week. But I do not have the trophy because it is currently in Rockford, probably gathering dust. Aaron probably lost it because he doesn't even care about. It's probably still in the box. I bet he never took it out of the box.
I've been over to his house. It's out of the box.
Is it out of the box?
He keeps it in the family room next to the big TV he's got in there.
Does he really?
Yeah, it's next. It's actually next to his couch in the corner of the room.
That's relatively prominent.
And then the big ring, right?
Yeah. Yeah, that'll get passed back to me too this year.
You know what? If you do that, I want to see you take that trophy and spin it like a helmet back there.
I'll work on it. I'm not sure that there's any magnets in that or anything that magnet could attach to. So we'll have to see.
Spinning Lombardi back there.
That would be dope. But yeah, I'm planning on taking that home. I got a matchup against Courts this week that we'll talk about a little bit later, but I'm feeling pretty good about it. Feeling pretty good.
Owen Tree.
Started at Owen Tree and now we're here. We're here at the second at least the second to the top. Hey, I'm making money this year. That's all that matters.
What's the payout?
That's a good question. I'm gonna have to look at that. I was planning on looking at that again. It's a little bit different. So we started with 500 with everybody's money. Documents. Here we go. The rules. League rules. Money. Cash payout. First, so we started with 500, paid out 10 each week. That ends up being for 17 weeks, that's $170. And then third place gets their money back, so that's 50. So that's $210. Wait, no. I did that wrong. All right. 170 plus 50 is $220. 120 plus 100, $320. So that leaves $180 left. So first place gets $180.
It's not bad.
Yeah, for some reason I have 210 in this Word document, but that's wrong. I think I wasn't counting the 3 playoff weeks. I think I was counting the 14 weeks. So it'd be 140. Yeah, that makes more sense of my numbers on there. But we're paying out for the playoffs, $10 for each winner. So instead, first place gets $180, second place gets 100, third place gets their money back, which is 50. I feel like that should be changed next year. Should be more money than first place. Maybe second place gets 75, third place gets money back.
Isn't third place money back this year?
Yeah. So you can still get your money back, Adam.
Well, I've won the highest scoring week twice, so I'd make $20 on the season.
If you win this week. It's true. You got a tough matchup against James, though.
I'm going to blow both you and Courts out of the water this week.
I'd like to see that.
But honestly, I don't know if I want that, because if I do blow Courts out of the water this week and beat them, I'm going to be a little salty that COVID stopped me. So I kind of at the same time want to score less in Courts to really assure that it actually wouldn't have happened this year. And I can feel better about my loss this past week.
I see. Well, if you would have had your backup on your roster well beforehand, you wouldn't have had this problem, Adam.
I know it. I made all the right moves and non-moves this season, except that one.
So is that going to be something you change? You're going to hold your backups all year next year?
Austin's.
What's that?
Just Austin Eckler's.
Just Austin Eckler's. I mean, yeah, so it really only counts in like in situations like Austin Eckler's where you have, like you were saying, that you had the Tony Pollard or the like the Justin Jackson was the main backup to Austin Eckler, and then like, the Alexander Madisons and whatnot. But like in my case with Jonathan Taylor, well, number one, Aaron has had Naeem Hines on his team the entire year, so I couldn't have done anything about that because he doesn't touch his team after he drafts. So I couldn't get my backup ever. And then James Robinson doesn't really have, like, Daria Gumbawale is, well, actually it was Carlos Hyde, but like they're not as good as James Robinson. So like they wouldn't have been valuable as a backup.
Well, I had two other running backs too on the bench. I mean, I had Zeke and Austin Eckler starting. And then I had CEH on my bench, which I thought was actually a pretty good move. And then I had the guy I up at the beginning of the season, Elijah Mitchell, who has been awesome when healthy. And he was out. CEH got injured. Austin was out. So I was like, oh, I don't need backups because I got all these healthy running backs right now.
That's true. Yeah, I guess you're not going to be dropping, another healthy running back, a good running back, to be picking up the backup for your big guys. So that does make sense. It was just unfortunate they all got hurt at the same time.
And I was happy with my receivers and my tight ends. My bench was positioned well for me. It just didn't work out.
Sorry, Adam. This is where you get to, like, you had the skill part of it this year because you built a good team, but the luck just didn't fall in your favor this year.
Need to be more Irish.
Need to be more what?
More Irish.
More Irish, yes. Get more lucky. But speaking of luck, Dak Prescott had a great game this week. How about that for a transition? To be fair, Dak Prescott has not scored above like 12 fantasy points in the last month, and then all of a sudden put up 31 fantasy points and a half against me. So I felt like that was unlucky on my side.
Well, the better Dak. The first was my dad. Dak.
Wait, I'm sorry. What'd you say? You Dak Zeke stack?
Yeah.
They led you this week. Yeah, except for.
Yeah. I just needed more.
Yeah, I mean, you had Stephon Diggs who put up 18 fantasy points for you too, like you said. But yeah, those were and Antonio Brown, who was my rival this week because he scored more than his quarterback, unfortunately for me, who I had on my team. So yeah, you had them four kind of do really well for you, but then you had number one, you had Austin Eckler out for the entire game because of COVID. Like you said, you had Elijah Mitchell hurt for the past 3 weeks or so. And Clyde Edwards-Helaire only had 9 fantasy points. Keenan Allen had 5. Like, that was rough. Keenan Allen against Houston, you think it'd be a smash matchup.
Austin Eckler was out. Mike
Williams was out.
So I thought, Keenan Allen probably have about 15 to 18 points with a touchdown in there somewhere. And I thought Antonio Brown would probably have 2 touchdowns against the Jets.
You'd think so, but no, Antonio Brown played Carolina. He's playing the Jets this week.
See, I can't look this stuff up. I'm on my phone.
No, he's got the Jets this week, actually. But yeah, I mean, overall, your team didn't do terrible. You kind of got a couple of bum weeks from Keenan Allen. And to be honest, that was really the only the only bad player on your team. The one dud was Keenan Allen. You could have expected more from everybody else, but Yeah, like you said, he would have gotten more from Clyde Edwards-Helaire if he hadn't gotten hurt partway through. So it was just, like I said, just unlucky. You need to find something next year. Like I have my lucky football socks that I wear every Sunday. Or like you need something to kind of help your luck a little bit in the playoffs. I'm sure Andrew Quartz has some sort of luck token or something. We'll have to ask him after next week.
Make sure I say good game to you guys before the game starts. No
That's true.
Shit talking.
I'm sick of shit talking. I did it once. I said boo hiss to your team, and that was it. It was over.
It's gonna sting for a while, but I'll get over it.
Yeah, but to just move on to another fantasy thing. But on my side of I had the Miami Miracle this year or this week, like we were saying. It's not the old Miami Miracle; it's a new Miami Miracle. Playing against a fourth-string quarterback, and getting a pick six within the first 5 minutes of the game, and getting 8 sacks and another interception, get me 25 fantasy points. I rode their back along with, like you said, the fill-in. Oh, it wasn't 27 fantasy points. It was 30.2 fantasy points for Justin Jackson, who did great. And then A.J. Brown on Thursday night put up 26 fantasy points. And the three of them put up 90% of my fantasy points. So I owed the whole thing to them. Tom Brady only scored 14 fantasy points. Like we said, James Robinson got hurt. He had 1. And George Kittle only had 3 fantasy points on Thursday night. So overall, I managed to make it through, and that's really what matters, is just the luck of making it through to the next round.
Speaking of next round, how about that next matchup?
Oh, Adam, with the transitions. They're fantastic. The other semifinal matchup, we had Chubba Hubba Dubba Bubba versus Buffalo Soldier, Heart of America. And Chubba Hubba Dubba Bubba put up 133.86 fantasy points to Buffalo Soldiers 121.12 fantasy points. So this was a great highfalutin, high-scoring matchup that Chubba Hubba Dubba Bubba did take this one home and advance to the finals, the championship, trying to get his name on that trophy for the first time. He has won this league many times in the past, and we're trying to change his luck forever. He's never going to win another championship again if we have anything to say about it. So suck it, Andrew. In his quarterback spot, he did have Josh Allen, who put up 30.96 fantasy points. He had Nick Chubb, who got 25.9 fantasy points. He had Sony Michel, who put up 20 fantasy points. And then he had the Cowboys D, who just barely surpassed my Miami D. They put up 26 fantasy points this week. And he helped lift the rest of his team, the likes of Craig Reynolds, Dallas Goedert, and Chase Claypool, who all put up under 7 fantasy points. So a terrible time for the rest of his team, but he did have those 4 major players putting up big games. On the other side of that, we did have on Buffalo Soldier, we've got Amon-Ra St. Brown leading the way with 21.5 fantasy points. Of course, he had Patrick Mahomes put up 22 fantasy points, and Dalton Schultz, who put up 18.2 fantasy points in the revenge game against Chubba Hubba Dubba Bubba, who previously released him for not being good enough and instead played Dallas Goedert. That was a mistake.
I'm next year.
You know what? With how the rest of his team looks, well, he does have Chris Godwin. No, he'll probably keep Chris Godwin. I don't think Amon-Ra St. Brown will be worth a keeper unless they get a better quarterback next year.
He's had digit targets 4 games in a row. I think it would depend on the draft. If they draft, like you said, either a quarterback or a receiver. If they don't, I think he has the potential to be that. But Chris Godwin, though, I believe will also be out of Tampa next year too, and I think he'll be the guy wherever he goes.
Well, I think how long has Hawkinson been out?
He's been out since like week 12. Because I just have Ertz in place of him, I think.
Yeah, he played week 13. So 14, 15, 16. So 3 of those weeks, TJ Hawkinson wasn't there. Probably 3.5, to be honest.
So that would make sense too.
Yeah, you're right. If they do get another big threat, or if TJ Hawkinson comes back in, I don't know how reliable he's going to be as a wide receiver. Although he was a rookie, and the second half rookie breakouts, could also can't really put the genie back in the bottle necessarily. So,
were you watching Detroit Cardinals game a couple weeks ago?
No, I didn't watch that. That was on. It was on Red Zone. I think I kind of saw snippets and whatnot of everything that happened.
Cardinals losing was big for your Packers, and Detroit winning caused them to lose the number 1 overall pick.
Yeah, yeah.
Which is, I think, the most Detroit thing to do.
It really is. It really is. Yeah, they could have tanked for although there's not really I don't think there's a really good quarterback this year in the draft that's the Tua or the Trevor Lawrence caliber. So I'm not sure. We'll have to see. I think there's going to be a lot more lot less position players going at the top of the draft, more linemen and whatnot, and defensive players that are going at the top of the draft, I think. But that's what I've heard anyway. This is the small snippet that I've heard about next year's draft class. That's really all I know, is that I've heard that tanking for the first overall pick isn't necessarily potentially the benefit that it was in the past couple of years, because it's not as big of a draft class for position players. Oh, there's a mysterious hand in the background. All right. Speaking of draft picks for next year, we've got my transitions are terrible. Maybe I should make that a thing. Try to do the worst possible transitions possible. We've got the 5th and 6th place game for this year. The guys who lost in the first round of the playoffs, Waddle baby, Waddle baby, Waddle baby, Waddle versus Rock the Hawk. And this was a blowout, mainly because I don't think Rock the Hawk even touched his lineup since last week. He had both players who got hurt during the game last week still in his lineup. So he only scored 62 fantasy points. And Waddle Baby put up the second highest point total of the week with 137.5 fantasy points. So good work, Benaya. But it was all for a fifth round spot here. You did have Joe Mixon and Devontae Adams put up 28 fantasy points each. Jalen Waddle, who is a potential keeper for next year, this is going to be a tough choice for him. He has to pick between Jamar Chase and Jalen Waddle next year, and that's going to be tough.
What round did they draft?
I'm not sure that Jalen Waddle was drafted. Yeah, I don't think he was. I mean, he wasn't. He was kind of talked about at the beginning of the year, but I don't know. I don't have the draft right in front of me here. ESPN ADP. That's for keeper value. Yeah, I don't have. '2020 draft order.
Hold on, I got this. Me and my phone.
I was just trying to pull up the actual draft. Oh, here we go. 2021 draft.
Drafted 107.
What?
Drafted 107. So round 11.
Are you sure about that?
Yeah, I just checked it. I went to Benaya's page.
Oh, I spelled it wrong. That's why. I did a Control F and didn't find it.
That's too advanced for me. I don't know what that means.
Control F is just a search function. They drafted him, you're right, in the 11th round. So yeah, he drafted him in the 11th round, Jamar Chase in the 6th round. So I would say he probably is going to keep Jalen Waddle, even though right now he's Jamar Chase marked as the keeper on his team. But he has a long time to change that.
I think he would lean Chase.
You think so? He did really well. Did you see his scores? After the beginning of the year, he had a rough time from like week 9 on.
No, I didn't see it.
So week 9 he had 6 fantasy points. Week 11 he had week 10 bye. Week 11 he had 11 fantasy points. Week 12 he had 5. Week 13 he had 7. 14 he had 22. So that was just one big week in the second half. 15 he only had 0.8. And 16 he did have this week. He had 16 fantasy points. I don't know. That's okay, but it's like Jalen Waddle was consistently better than that in the last few weeks here. Except he missed week 15. I think he was on the COVID list.
That damn COVID.
I guess it's just it's choosing to believe whether he's going to get back to the first half of the year or if he's going to be the second half of the year. Because like T. Higgins came on really strong in the second half of the year too, for Cincinnati. But who knows? We'll have to talk about it more when we have our keeper podcast before the year next year.
I look forward to that.
Good. And yeah, so in the duds category for Waddle Baby, we did have the Chargers D, who against Houston, they lost to Houston. Houston put up 41 fantasy points on the Chargers, or 41 real points on the Chargers. And the Chargers defense got -5. -5. That's up there. Mike Gesicki only had 3 points. Yeah. Oh, yeah. No, yeah. -5 fantasy points.
That's down there.
It's down there. It's way down there. And then Cordell Patterson only had 7 fantasy points, 7.8. But everybody else was good. Like he had a otherwise great game except for those few duds. I'm not even going to go over Ryo's team because he didn't even touch it since last week. He did it. David Montgomery who put up 20 fantasy points. Otherwise, he just didn't touch his team, so I'm not even going to go there. Didn't even try to win the 10 points or $10 this week. He could have played T. Higgins and gotten 37 fantasy points from him, but he didn't.
He probably bathes in money.
Yes, he probably does. Speaking of bathing, let's move on to the next matchup. We've got Deshaun's happy endings. You need to bathe after hanging out with Deshaun's happy endings. Because that implies nasty things. And then my tight end Ertz when Eifert. Both of these you have to wash yourself afterwards. And it wasn't a great matchup. My tight end Ertz came out with the victory here, 77.54 fantasy points to 75.18. This matchup was for 7th and 8th place, so technically in the playoffs, Aaron got 7th place. But for the draft next year, I believe we're going to use for the top. I guess what did we decide on? I guess we'll have to figure it out. I feel like the winner of the championship should be the one who has the least chance of getting the first round pick.
Well, it should, but it's on the line. Anything can happen.
Yeah, the least chance. Yeah, that's what I said. The least chance of getting it. I'm just trying to think of like how we did it last year. As far as do we take the standings at the end of the regular season, or do we take the standings of the playoffs? Probably of the playoffs to determine draft order for next year.
Because I wasn't given, even though I had the worst regular season, I wasn't given the most amount of balls to play with. I finished 8th in the tournament, and therefore I was 3rd lowest for well, 3rd highest for a chance to win.
Yeah. Okay. Well, yeah, then that's probably how we're going to do it this year. So these do matter. 7th and 8th place go to first Aaron, then Chad. So, what's that?
Don't take my word for it. I could be wrong though too, because I could have finished. We could have gone by the regular season record, and I just ended up being the 3rd pick. So I could be mixed up there. I honestly don't remember now that I'm thinking about it.
Well, we'll have to. Well, that'll be something that we vote on, I'm sure, before we go into the draft season. So, we'll talk about it as a group, as far as what the order should be. It could be a mixture of the two. It could be, you use the first 6 that made into the playoff. You use that, how they finished there as the top 6 picks. Or top 6 order, and then the bottom 4 could just be the 4 in the standings from the regular season. It could be a mixture. I don't know. We'll talk about it, I'm sure. But for the 7th and 8th place game, like I said, nothing too exciting. Lots of low scores. Nothing above 17 for my tight end Ertz. Actually, for both teams, nobody scored above 17 fantasy points in this matchup. Cooper Kupp was sitting at 16. Devin Singletary at 16. Both defenses are negative. The Patriots D were -4, and the Panthers D were -2. And yeah, it was just overall not a great matchup. So we're gonna move on.
Smooth.
Speaking of smooth, let's go to the toilet bowl. A smooth flush all the way down. We've got Team IR versus Ain't No Water Back Girl. And there was a total of 72 fantasy points scored in this game. It was a massively high scoring week for these two. They could have been in the championships had they played better during the regular season. However, they did not. So, like I said, Brandon narrowly avoids both punishments this year, and instead Neil takes home the wearing of the dress for next year's draft. On Team IR, we did have Damian Harris, who put up 28.5 fantasy points, and Mark Andrews, who put up 22.5 fantasy points. And really everybody else just had a decent game. Like, there were no duds. The lowest scoring team was the Raiders D. The person who was the Raiders D with 8 fantasy points. So is the D a person or is it a team? I guess it's a team. His lowest scoring player, which happens to be the team of the Las Vegas Raiders defense, put up 8 fantasy points. On the other side, we had Chase Edmonds on Ain't No Waller Back Girl. We had Deebo Samuel with 23.6 and Chase Edmonds with 22.7 fantasy points. And the Buccaneers D came in with a good game of 15 fantasy points. So pretty good game for Ain't No Waller Back Girl as well. The only dud was Terry McLaurin, who put up 5.5. Other than that, not too shabby. So congratulations to Brandon for getting 9th place. Yeah, good work. Sweet. Oh, sorry. We'll do the cheer. Got 9th place. You ended the season with a win. Congratulations. And you don't have to wear a dress for next year's draft. Neil, you do have to wear a dress for next year's draft. And we will see how this goes. It should be, should be entertaining to say the least. But there you go. That is the end of the matchups for this week. There are still 2 more games that really matter in this year. They pay out, like we were saying earlier. We're going to be paying out some big monies to people next week. So stay tuned for another week of this. But before we get to those 2 fantastic matchups for next week, we do have... Wait, no, that's not what I wanted. The waiver wire team that would kick all of our asses. Adam, are you ready for this?
And I thought you were going to. I'm like, that's my favorite.
This is my favorite. My favorite section. You're right. Not my second favorite. My second favorite's the Q&A section, which we don't have any questions for this week, so unfortunately we're not going to hear it. That wonderful drop. But in the waiver wire team, we did have at the quarterback spot Zach Wilson, who put up 23.18 fantasy points. That is very interesting. Zach Wilson coming back to his beginning of the season form with a rushing touchdown. He had like a 60-yard rushing touchdown. Did you see that?
I was going to ask you. I don't know.
It was insane. It was like he was making jukes and like he looked good as a runner in that play.
Kind of guy.
I know. Maybe he should play running back instead. He'd probably be better at it.
Hey, I'll take him on my number.
Yeah, right. 1 overall, Zach Wilson. There we go. Next year, number 1. But he was number 1 in our hearts this week at the quarterback spot for the waiver wire team. In the running back spot, we have Rex Burkhead, who put up 27.9 fantasy points straight off of Andrew Kortz's roster. Dropped like a hot rock, and Kortz paid the price. So he left 27.9 fantasy points out on the waiver wire. Not that anybody should have or would have played him this week, but he did do a good job.
So
yeah,
I saw something some chat. Rex Burkhead. And I didn't follow along. I didn't know what he was talking about. I didn't realize that Rex Burkhead was on his team prior to this weekend.
Yeah, he was. I don't know if he was dropped like within the last week or whatever, but yeah, he was dropped relatively recently because he did have him on his team because there were the injuries that were going around or COVID or something that was going around in Houston's backfield, and I think he was like the only. He was like the only available running back 1 week, and he still only scored like 6 fantasy points or something crazy like that. So he dropped him, which is rightfully so. But Rex showed him with 27.9 fantasy points. In the running back 2 spot, we have Dare Agumbawale coming in for James Robinson in a smash matchup that he should have done well in with 14.2 fantasy points. We have in the wide receiver 1 spot, Isaiah McKenzie, who put up 23.9 fantasy points in a monster game where like everybody else on the Bills was out. In the wide receiver 2 spot, we have Byron Pringle, who put up 22.5 fantasy points. In the tight end slot, Gerald Everett, who put up 14.8. Didn't you have Gerald Everett for a while on your team, Adam?
No, I never had him. I've had Gesicki. I dropped after the first week, and I know I shouldn't have because he'd be a top 6, 7 tight end, and he has been since then. Picked up Gronk, traded Gronk to Rio for T.J. Johnson, after the first 2 weeks where he scored 20 points each pretty much, and then been shit in the bed ever since. And then been picking up Ertz and maybe Higbee.
Yeah, Higbee. Yeah. Well, if you had Gerald Everett this week, he would have put up 14.8 fantasy points.
That would have lost.
In the flex spot, we did have Malik Turner from Dallas, who put up 15.7 fantasy points. At the defense, we had the Chiefs, who put up a measly 11 fantasy points in this massive defensive battle this week. And then the kicker, there were actually many kickers with 12 fantasy points, but I picked Dustin Hopkins because I knew him. I didn't know the other players that put up 12 fantasy points. So this team would have gotten you 165.18 fantasy points, and we lost again to the waiver wires. The waivers are 14-2 for this year. We've got some work to do to take them down next week. Adam, do you think that we could take them down next week?
No.
That's probably the highest likelihood of happening, is that we don't take them down at all. But Adam, are you ready? Are you ready to go through the two most important matchups of the year?
I am.
All right. In the championship matchup, we have a great matchup this week. We have Chubba Hubba Dubba Bubba, the 2 seed in our bracket, versus the More the Merrier, the 5 seed, coming in the wild card spot, making his way all the way up to the championship, just like the Green Bay Packers in 2010. So let us see how this matchup is going to go. We'll start with Chubba Hubba Dubba Bubba. We do have Josh Allen versus Atlanta, which I admit is a pretty good spot to be in. We have Nick Chubb versus Pittsburgh. We have Sony Michel versus Baltimore. Baltimore's run defense has been very good recently. We have Hunter Renfro versus Indianapolis. We have Darnell Mooney versus the Giants. We have Dallas Goedert to the rest of you for against Washington. We've got Devontae Parker versus Tennessee, and the Eagles D versus Washington and Justin Tucker. On my side of the matchup, we have Tom Brady versus the Jets. And like I said, I haven't replaced James Robinson in my lineup yet. We're still working on that. I do have, like I said, Jeff Wilson and Justin Jackson on my bench. But we'll see. We'll see if I make some waiver wire pickups or not. We're gonna try. And I have Jonathan Taylor versus Las Vegas, the Raiders. I have DJ Moore versus New Orleans. I have AJ Brown versus Miami. George Kittle versus Houston. I currently have Alan Lazard in the flex. That also might change based on how I'm looking later in the week. And then I've got the Dolphins D versus Tennessee and Jake Elliott versus Washington. I know my lineup doesn't look great right now, mainly because I have James Robinson and whatnot still in. But I am only projected to lose by 2, even though I have James Robinson with a 0 in there.
All right.
What are you thinking?
As I lost to you last week, usually my response would be that I would want you to win so I can at least say that I lost to the champion.
Mm-hmm.
That's, I think, the better mindset. Part of me wants Court to win, though, because of the fact that after he's won it so many years, he's the bar. So I think it'd be kind of cool to say that I went undefeated against the champ this year as well. I beat the bar. So I'm picking play who I want to win. I think you have better matchups, though, this week. So if A.J. Brown can replicate what he did last year and DJ Moore be semi-decent, I think JT will go off. I think Tom Brady bounces back. I think you just need a filler for that running back spot, honestly. I don't think you need anything fantastic there.
I mean, so the last however many weeks, whatever, 5 weeks, 6 weeks, kind of since I've been doing well, it's mostly been relying on like I have the 3 or 4 players that can just boom. Like I have the Tom Brady, the Jonathan Taylor, the George Kittle. I've been relying on those to have big games, and they all have good matchups this week. So the chances are high that they do have those boom games. And like you said, I just need somebody that can score like 10 fantasy points. Like DJ Moore can do that. Alan Lazard, I think, can do that against Minnesota. Like people can just fill in with like 10 fantasy points, and that'll be enough of a booster, behind those guys that boom on my team.
His wide receiver 1 is Hunter Renfro, and his 2 is Darnell Mooney.
You can't really be hating on Hunter Renfro. I mean, he's wide receiver 14 on the year. Yeah.
He's been doing good, but I'm not huge on Mooney yet. Parker, wow, out like the whole season.
Yeah, he's been out a long time.
When he plays, he does all right though.
He played last week and goosed, so.
And then with Cam Akers coming back, I don't think it's gonna be a huge cut into the cell work, but maybe enough to kind of throw him off rhythm here.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, he's gonna.
think
Yeah, go ahead.
you regain your that trophy.
I love to hear it. I love to hear it.
Seeing Courts winning again now. After he reached out to me last night to send his respect and condolences to me and my team.
Oh, did he?
Game recognized game.
Ah, there you go. Well, I'm sure he'd probably prefer to play me this week than you because you have probably the better team of the two of us. So I'm sure he's not necessarily happy that, I'm sure he is happy that I won versus you winning. But I appreciate your backing my team here. Be it, softly backing my team because you're like, okay, well, it'd be fine if Courts wins too, but that's fine.
I want Courts to win. I think you win though.
All right. Well, I wrote down the wrong name in here because I thought for sure you were going with him.
No, I think team-wise, I think your team's better filled.
All right. I like to hear that. All right. Well, we'll see if our matchup predictions come true for the championship next week. But let's move on. You're trying to get, like you said, you're trying to gain $20 this year. I think James has also won twice. I have not gotten the highest score of the week once this year.
Really?
Not a single time.
I've incredible. The highest. No, I've been the highest scoring team the whole season, and I've only scored the highest scoring week twice. I mean, times I've been number 2.
I think that also shows us like how close all of our teams are. Like our teams all have the potential to just be great each week, like every single one of our teams. So like the fact that, I don't think anybody's really won it more than like 2 or 3 times this year. The highest score. It hasn't been like one team that's just been dominating like 5 or 6 times. I think the most somebody's won it has been maybe 3.
That's pretty.
Yeah. So it's been relatively even throughout the year. But yeah, let's move on to your matchup here and see if you can't get an additional $50 back here and try to come out on the plus side for this year. Let's start with your team. You're playing against James this week, Buffalo Soldier, Heart of America. But you got Dak Prescott versus Arizona, who has not been very good recently. Like we said, they lost to the Lions. They lost last week too. Who did they play this last week? Nobody good. Oh, they played the Colts. They lost to the Colts this week. And then you have Austin Eckler versus Denver. That might be a tough matchup, but it is Austin Eckler. You got Zeke versus the Arizona Cardinals. You got Stephon Diggs versus Atlanta. That should be good. Keenan Allen versus Denver. You got a lot relying on the Chargers and the Cowboys here. You feeling confident in the Chargers and the Cowboys this week?
This was the team that I drafted and built. This was the team I was winning the championship with. This is the team I'm going to wipe everyone off the face of the earth this week. I'm winning this week. James, your team sucks. I said it.
Yeah, that's true. You could get $60 this week potentially if you get the highest score.
I am. Yeah. This is a off bench game right here. I'm coming back.
You won't, but you could. Because I'm gonna get it the first time ever of the year. I'm gonna get it and prove that I deserve this championship. I'm gonna win this. Oh, all right.
Losses came from James though. Absolutely early in the season.
Yeah, we've got the two previous. I've got the two previous matchups right here. Yeah, he beat you 153 to 110 in week 2, and then he beat you by less than 2 points in week 10.
Yeah, I don't think I ever beat James. I think he's my weakness.
Ever beat James in any times that you've played him?
Like, just it feels that way sometimes. Because he always has Aaron Jones, and Aaron Jones always goes for like 40 against me, I feel like.
They are playing against Minnesota this week, so Minnesota's kind of been rough. Like they haven't been a good defense.
So, GG, James.
You're not going to tell him that his team is trash?
But you're losing.
See, you're trash talking. You're going to lose. You're going to lose.
We'll see. If I lose this week, my God, I've already deleted the app. I set my lineup and I've deleted the app again, and I'm not bringing it back up until
if one of your players gets COVID.
The off season. Well, that's too bad for me then, because I won't know.
Yeah, you'll know. It'll come up in the sleeper. Do you have sleeper notifications still?
I get those.
Yeah, it'll come up. I'll let you know if you get a player that has COVID.
I appreciate that, Jason.
Yeah. You got let's go back to your team here. You do have Zach Ertz versus Dallas, should be good. Antonio Brown versus the Jets, that should be great. And the Broncos D versus the Chargers. How do you feel about your team? They look good.
Everyone's set for a bounce back game this weekend or a good matchup. Like I said, this was the championship team, the roster I wanted. It's going to happen this week.
It's going to happen. All right. I'm assuming you're picking you to win as well. All right. We'll go through quickly James's team. He's got Patrick Mahomes versus Cincinnati. He's got Aaron Jones versus Minnesota. Najee Harris versus Cleveland. Amon-Ra St. Brown versus Seattle. Can you overtake Amon-Ra St. Brown? Are you going to be able to fight that power?
Who's he matched up against right now?
Seattle.
Well, I mean, on my team though, he's in the wide receiver 2 spot.
Oh no, he's in the wide receiver 1 spot, my man.
He's in the 1 spot
against Stephon Diggs.
Ooh. He might beat out Stovall this week.
Ooh, bold strokes.
But my team will come through.
We'll have to see. He's got Jacoby Myers in the wide receiver 2 spot and Tyler Lockett in the flex. He's got Dalton Schultz at the tight end, and he's got the Rams D against Baltimore and Young Hui Koo in the kicker slot. Yeah, I've got you to win this as well. But sometimes his team just goes nuts for no good reason. So
that's football, man. Did Court say he dropped Schultz?
Yeah, he did. He also had Schultz. And yeah, he dropped him.
See, Schultz. I would pick him too, but I already have Dak and Zeke.
Yeah, well, to be fair, Schultz did not do well after the bye. So like he did pretty good weeks 3 through 6. So those 4 games he did really well. And then after the bye, he had 2, 7, 1, and 8 points. And then Vegas, he did have 14 points. And then he had 6 and 0 and 1 So like, and then the last 2 weeks he's gone nuts. So 16 and 18. So it's just about not giving up on your players, man.
So he dropped Emmanuel Sanders. Well, he traded for Emmanuel Sanders, dropped him, and then I just saw he picked him back up again.
Yeah, well, that was because Cole Beasley is out with COVID, and so is Gabriel Davis.
Probably
So,
next.
what's that?
Probably Stephon next.
Maybe. No, they both tested positive before this last game. So, so I don't know. We'll have to see how that goes, but yeah, he picked up Emmanuel Sanders because he thought that he was potentially going to have a good game. And then Isaiah McKenzie came out of nowhere and just went nuts instead of Emmanuel Sanders. So there are no other real matchups this week. The bottom 6 teams, like we said, we were saying earlier in the day today that the bottom 6 teams don't really have meaningful matchups because they finished all of their matchups this last week. So either it can be a big Royal Rumble this week for fun, or you could pick your matchups if you want. That's up to you guys. I can move stuff around.
I want to see some call outs for the bottom.
You know, people call out each other.
Yeah.
All right, you heard the man. You guys pick your matchups this week, and I'll make it happen. All right, do it. Just do it. Oh, do it.
It's
Adam, still spinning. Adam, we made it through. We made it through the pod. I'm glad to have you here, despite your, I'm sure, eons of sadness that is behind your eyes right now.
I don't know how I didn't cry during this.
You still have time. But anyways, I'm glad you joined me. And you know, this thing that I do where I bring on my last competitor really it really is like a dagger to the heart for either the person that I've played against or me, because it's a reminder of that one of us lost this last week. Maybe next year I'll bring on the person that I'm supposed to play this next week.
That's all I did.
That way there's no like heartache and reaction. Although getting the emotion out of the person that loses is also good podcasting. So who knows?
I loved it for first 50, however long it was. I was in getting ready for bed, brushing my teeth, and I was literally in my head having this conversation with you, but on a more pissed off level last night. And just like yelling into the mic. Like Mackenzie goes, "Why are you talking to yourself?" Like she saw my lips moving.
Yeah, I mean, what's nice about, grief, I guess, is that, don't worry, the sentence is going nowhere fast. Is that like, especially for like something like this, you get a good night's, like, you're really pissed off when it happens, and then you get a good night's sleep and you're less pissed off the next day, and you get another night's sleep and you're less pissed off the next day. So it'll heal the wound eventually, or it'll close the wound at least eventually, but I know it's still relatively fresh.
Heals off.
It does.
Till we get the next
Till we hit the next weekend, and then you lose again, and then you're sad again. That's how I felt at the beginning of the year this year. The first 3 weeks, I thought I had a stacked lineup, and my team was just taking shits all over the field. Well, I told you guys I used to enjoy Sundays, but I don't anymore because I was hating every single week.
I'm the number one seed in person. So
that's how I felt. I wasn't the 1 seed, which, yeah, I agree. It does suck going in as the 1 seed. Well, to be fair, the last 2 weeks, all of the good play, like as shown by who has scored well the last 2 weeks, like all the teams that were terrible throughout the year all scored a bunch of points the last 2 weeks. Like it's been Neil and it's been Brandon and it's been like James's team who barely made the playoffs. Like all those teams have played really well over the last 2 weeks. So like all the kind of like people who you expected to do well throughout the year, like kind of didn't show up in the playoffs this year.
That's how it feels.
Yeah, well, that's why it's luck once you get to the playoffs. So any team can do anything.
You like the 1 week playoffs, or do you like a 2 week playoff?
I don't like the 2 week playoff, mainly because I lost in another league with the 2 week playoff. I won last week. I was up by 20 going into this week, and I got demolished. Wiped the floor with me. So I don't like the 2 week playoffs.
I've been down for, and this is a public league, my only public league I've ever done. It was the first time I did 4 leagues. I'm like, you know what, I'm just gonna do a public league. And I was down 40 going into the second week of the championship, and I came back and won that one.
Damn. Yeah, I mean, it does cause like it does help the higher seed teams, like
it favors the stronger teams, I feel like.
It does favor the stronger team, but it doesn't necessarily reflect reality, which I think is what makes fantasy like it makes fantasy football great and terrible at the same time, depending on which side of it you're on. The randomness and the luck that goes into, anything can happen on any given week. So, I mean, it just depends on what you're looking for, to get out of it, I guess. I know it sucks to be on your side.
I know. Man, if we did a playoff,
it'd be close. My ass would be grass. Is that what you think? You see the matchups I have this week?
My team's angry. That's all I'm trying to.
So is Tom Brady.
Yeah, ever done a 2-week playoff in this league? Or has it always been 1 week?
Yeah, I think we did. Like way back when we started. When we only had like 8 teams, I think.
Undefeated in championships.
Yeah, basically. Because his team was good. So he had the good team, and it was always stronger in the 2-week playoffs. That's why Court's always won. That's it. You notice he hasn't won in the last few years.
He'd be throwing Megatron in the flex.
Yeah. Well, yeah, our 8-team leagues were, it was insane. I think we might have even started as a 6. I think we started our very first year with 6 teams. I think we had Benaya. I think we had Courts. It was me. It was Spencer Jacobson. Who else was in our? Were you an original member, or did you join us?
I joined to make the 8-man.
Yeah, so we did 6. I can't remember who. Well, let's look at our. I don't know who else would have been. Maybe we only had 4. I don't remember.
Holy cow.
Maybe we did. Maybe it was only 4 teams. Can I go back? Yeah, league. History. Here we go. Let's go back.
Megatron on waivers in a 4-man league.
We've only got. We only have going back to 2014 in the history books.
I joined, I think, either 14 or 13.
Oh yeah, Christina played a couple times. Yeah, you were on 14. You had your same logo. Wait, that doesn't make sense. Your team was martial law.
I remember that team. I had Brandon Marshall on my team. And and Alshon Jeffrey, along with Tom Brady and Drew Brees. Those were my first 2 picks because I didn't know what I was doing. So I thought I needed to pick 2 good quarterbacks first. So apparently I got 2 picks in a row, but I was on the tail end of the first and beginning of the second.
I have your team up here. You had at the end of the year, you had Emmanuel Sanders and Kelvin Benjamin as your wide receivers.
Traded Benaiah for Emmanuel Sanders. I traded him my tight end, Antonio Gates, and my receiver, Alshon Jeffries, for Emmanuel Sanders at that time.
Yeah.
Because I wanted to get rid of one of my Bears wide receivers. And then Brandon Marshall had a collapsed lung, I think.
Oh, yeah. Well, there you go. That's our 2014 season, everybody. But Christina played. She was Victoria's Secret. But yeah, we can't go back any further, but I'm pretty sure we did have a 6-man or maybe a 4-man league. Courts remembers better, but those were the days, man. When we started, back when we had powerhouses as teams.
Now we have podcasts and punishments.
We have podcasts and punishments. And that's where we'll end tonight, on a cliffhanger of who's going to win next week. And what a transition to the end of the show. We're we're doing good things, as always. But all right, I'm running out of voice and running on fumes here. So, Adam, it was wonderful having you. I apologize for beating your ass so hardly with Miami Dolphins defense. I know that the pain will go away in a little bit, but the pain will never go away. He's going to come back with a vengeance next year. He's going to draft Miami's D in like the 8th round and just destroy us all with Miami's defense. The revenge tour of Miami's D.
Chalk it up, mark it down.
Mark it down. We're all going to lose next year. Adam's going to destroy us all. All right, go and drown your sorrows with a Bourbon County, all right?
I will.
Thank you.
Guys, great season.
Yes, congrats everybody on a great season, and congrats to my team for winning it all next week, because that's what I'm going to do. Suck it, Courts. Suck it. Right. I needed to get that in there because we're going into the championship, and I am a champ, as my shirt says. I'm reminding you all that I won this recently in 2019, so my team, it knows what's coming, and it's ready for it, and it's about to destroy. It's going to destroy. We're going to win. All right, boyos. You guys have a great week. I'll see you next week for the results of our championship. All right. See you guys.